Hello and welcome to Capacity TV. Today we're joined by Ganesh from Telecom Malaysia. Ganesh, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure being here.
What do you see for the future of wholesale? Do you see it remaining relevant?
The wholesale industry is basically the cornerstone of the telcos. Most of our bandwidths actually run through the infrastructure. So I see it being very relevant today. And most revenues from the telcos are actually generated by the wholesale industry. And on top of that, the more bandwidth that's used passes through through our infrastructure, the more revenues are generated by the telcos. There are a few factors that actually drive the bandwidth requirements. One of it being basically the emerging markets. As we move into more emerging markets and new markets coming up, there will be a huge demand in bandwidth. There's also a change in people's spending behavior. So the more purchasing power people have, the more they will want to have more access to internet and bandwidth. On top of that, we also have slowly enterprises today, companies, gone were the days where they would just focus locally. So now most of them want to go abroad, want to go global, and they will need to be connected internationally. So because of all these factors, I see the wholesale industry still being very relevant and connectivity being the main core function. However, as bandwidth increases, what we've observed is that because of demand and supply, the prices have start to come down. There is a huge price erosion in the market today. Because of that price erosion, now we have to start thinking about our business. It's not something we would love to be in, because, of course, people want better prices, more revenues, but it's something that we have to deal with in today's environment. And we have to slowly start now moving into beyond connectivity.
What can existing players do to develop telecommunications in these existing markets you're talking about?
Like I said, our core business is still connectivity and will remain connectivity, but we have to now look at what is riding on this connectivity. What are the things that drive this business? So we are now slowly moving into, if you look at it today, the applications, the content industry. If you look at advertising, digital advertising, and in cloud computing, they are all riding on this bandwidth. So we are now slowly moving into that arena, and we have to start now considering partnerships with some of these players.
Do you think industry players should be collaborating more when it comes to sort of emerging new revenue streams?
Collaboration has always been the pillar for most telcos for many years, and it only makes sense to actually collaborate. Rationale being because telco industry, it's a high capex industry, so that itself is a natural barrier to entry. So you need to collaborate with most industry players, and of course, if you look for it from another side, who knows best to enter a particular country? So you need to work with the local incumbents. Having said that, we are now slowly thinking of collaboration outside of the telco industry as well, because going back to what I said earlier, that we have to see who's riding on our infrastructure, and now we have to look at non-telco players. There is a slow shift towards today that some companies are actually in partnership with application companies, advertising companies. If you look at Singtel, for example, recently, they announced that they acquired a digital advertising company. Telecom Malaysia, for that matter, we actually also acquired a security surveillance company to build a smart city. So the industry is slowly shifting, and there can be many forms of collaboration with this non-telcos. It can be through a simple project, or it could be partnerships, or it could even be acquisitions.
And do you predict any more investment in cable systems? And if so, what do you think will be driving this?
Personally, I think there will be more investments in the cable investments, especially for new and emerging markets, because as the new markets come out, there is more demand for bandwidth. So there will be a need to actually connect these countries. And this can be evident from Myanmar. If you look at Myanmar, the hot topic today, everybody's trying to go into Myanmar, and they are building, and there's thoughts about building cables towards Myanmar to cope with this demand. However, when you look at cable investment being a high capex industry, you have to analyze it, because any investments into cable is investing into the future. So you are looking at your future demand today, and that's what. So if you don't see such a big future, then you have to reconsider your options whether you want to invest in a particular cable. The other thing is, like I said, because it's high capex and price, because of price erosions, so you also have to analyze, do you get your returns on investment when you build a cable? So these are some of the factors that you have to consider when you're investing into a cable system. The other options that some may consider is you may want to leverage, if you're not confident on the business case, you may want to leverage on your neighboring countries for access into the world, to the rest of the countries. For example, in Myanmar, you've got Thailand. You can use Thailand, or you can use China, India, whichever way, instead of building into Myanmar. So it really depends on your business case for it. If there is a demand, then it makes sense. If there's no demand, you may want to leverage on partners.
Where do you think the industry will be focusing next? Are there any sort of key growth areas?
The key growth areas is really beyond connectivity. We have to start looking at probably cloud computing applications. Some companies may also want to look at end-to-end solutions, providing full connectivity plus data center services to your companies. There's also a huge need to connect the enterprises today. Enterprises need now moving globally, so you have to look after your enterprises. Each incumbent will have to look after their multinationals going abroad. So I see the business slowly moving towards the enterprise side, and also the OTTs and cloud computing moving into that direction. But I also see that there is major collaborations with incumbents and also non-telcos in the near future.
Thank you very much for joining us today on Capacity TV.
Thank you, and it was a pleasure being here.